YouTube is an online video sharing service and was key for the research in my coursework. Firstly, because it's where I sourced my short films from, which I analysed for research. This gave me a chance to explore loads of different films, to try and find ideas and learn about styles of films and techniques which I could implement in my own film. It also gave me a chance to look at other people's A2 media coursework in order to see what issues other people had and how they succeeded, and this informed me on what might be problematic and what could potentially be very successful. It also gave me the opportunity to learn skills, which I could then apply in the production of my coursework. This meant using indie filmmakers on YouTube who teach you how to use and apply certain techniques. The two main pages I used were Film Riot and DSLR Guide. These allowed me to research different techniques which I could achieve and also showed me how to achieve them. This was fundamental to my research. This was something that was also very important when it came to learning new skills, particularly colour correction, which was very important when it came to my film, but was not something that I had previously done. YouTube is also where I published my rough cuts and final product. The publication of my rough cuts allowed me to gain feedback from them, with people being allowed to view them publicly. In order to gain this feedback, I Facebooked people links to the rough cuts and asked them about their reactions, and used SurveyMonkey to create a survey about my film and ancillary tasks. This allowed me to gain more detail and depth understanding of my audience and what they thought about my film. SellTags is an online screenwriting software which I choose to use when writing my film. This was something which was an indispensable tool to me when it comes to filmmaking, as it's what I use to write all of my scripts. This is a prime example of how new media technology has changed the way things are done. Gone are the days of handwritten scripts or scripts that have to be formatted by hand. This makes them very difficult to edit. However, now, with SellTags, I can edit my scripts from anywhere as long as I have internet. This was something which was very important to this task when it came to the numerous rewrites and additional scenes which I had to do for this project, which was originally quite small and intense, but grew into something far wider. None of this would have been possible without SellTags and its editing features. To organise all of my shoots, I used Facebook group chats to communicate with a large number of people at a single time. This prevented the possibility of me contacting every individual and then having to work around them, as it allowed me to use a wide possibility of dates. This led to me being a lot more flexible and made it a lot easier to organise the shoots. I also used Facebook when asking my sample audience for feedback. This is because it allowed me to get feedback effectively and allowed my audience to spend time on it, and didn't put them under the pressure of filming them. However, it gave a less immediate reaction. I filmed my project on a Nikon DSLR. This allowed me to create a more dynamic film than I otherwise would have been able to achieve using a camcorder. This is a reflection of how amateur filmmaking has developed with the introduction of DSLRs, making it accessible for amateur filmmakers to use industry standard techniques such as shallow depth of field and playing with the focus. This has allowed me to make my film more professional without the industry standard professional kit. The editing suite which I chose to use for my film was Adobe Premiere Pro. This was chosen over Final Cut Pro for the simple reason that I'd used it in the past, knew how to use it, and had accessibility to it at home. This was effective for making my task because it was up to date and to professional standard. This meant it had all the effects I could possibly need to create my film, and allowed me to work quickly within a program which I knew very well. It also meant I wasn't relying on old editing suites, which are much slower and less effective as they have less features to enhance the film. Also, working digitally on an editing suite like Premiere Pro is much faster and more dynamic than editing on an old film editing suite. The diversity of this editing program has allowed me to create a more creative task using features such as colour correction and cropping to enhance my film. For both of my ancillary tasks, I created an initial outline and plan on PowerPoint. This allowed me to simply put together the basic mock-ups of what I wanted to achieve, and then play around with different ideas prior to making the final products in Photoshop. I also used PowerPoint during my research to create presentations of the codes and conventions of different genres. I then put together the final versions of these tasks on Photoshop. This allowed me to create versions of the draft which I'd produced in PowerPoint, but was more precise in how I put it together, and allowed me to edit them further. Also, the fact that this kit was to a professional standard allows me to raise the level of these two tasks and not be limited by the technology that I was using. To write up all of my research, planning and evaluation, as well as to update the progress of my production, I used WordPress. This is an online blog site which allows you to create your own blog. I used this last year, so I knew my way around it. I found it a very useful tool, not just to ensure I could get the best grade possible with my write-up, but also to allow me to store my research and look back over everything I'd done to see how I could improve it. It also helped me to be more structured in my production and planning, which is something which I have often failed to do. In conclusion, I believe in the use of new media technology has vastly impacted my film, by allowing me to ensure it is as effective as it can be, whether that be through learning new techniques and skills, or asking my audience what they desire from a film, and allowing me to tailor my film to their needs, using modern technology in the production.